Welcome to the rise and fall of Foxhole. If you are interested in seeing the second part, feel free to subscribe and hit the notification bell for when it's released. Foxhole has been around since 2017, when the Greenlight project was a thing on Steam, the good old days, and it was a very strong contender. I'd seen the initial information for it, and it looked promising. You fight in a world torn into conflict by two opposing factions, and you as a player can choose to do as much or as little as you want to affect the war. But either way, there is a victor over the enemy. Neither faction is grounded in reality, nor is the world around them. Now, as awesome as that sounds, there is a big important variable to take into account: the developers and the community. Whilst I applaud the devs about the progress and the development of Foxhole, appropriate criticism is given where it is due, as seen before in my previous coverage of the LOGI union. A key part of developing a game of this style is listening to the community's feedback, the community being the wider community and not just the specific streamer part. As most game developers do, they listen to the feedback from the wider community and then they test their game in depth to find any issue with it, which is part and parcel with developing and improving a game for its player base. The developers over at Siege Camp don't seem to do this. They don't seem to play their own game, and it's made excessively worse because they don't seem to. All in all, the developer's ability to be transparent with its community is a bit lackluster. Failure in communication has led to a lot of controversy, see my previous videos, which has had a somewhat mixed response on the player base, with many long-time players dropping the game due to a failure to listen when releasing updates into the main game with minimal testing through dev branch. Whilst it cannot be said that devs don't publish to the dev branch, it does fall more under a lack of listening to feedback to make the relevant changes. The best example of this I can think of was in Update 48, which, at the time of recording, was the last update, where the developers made huge sweeping changes without thorough testing or listening to the feedback for balancing purposes. Many of the issues that should have been caught in dev branch and fixed have made War 91 a very difficult war for the Colonials, especially in terms of early game tier. Many of the weapons the Colonial Legion relies heavily on, an example being the Ignifist, has been debuffed quite substantially, leaving the Colonials with no effective early war AT. Whilst it may not have been the developer's intention to cause detriment to essentially the entire arsenal the Colonials have, this in turn has now fueled the ever-growing idea that the devs have a preference for a certain faction over the other. Intentional or not, this is a growing sentiment within the community, as these rash changes are being made without thorough foreplanning. A key example of this is the nerfing of most of the anti-infantry equipment the Colonials have access to. Whilst the developers themselves have stated that the Wardens are meant to have better equipment but less of it, and the Colonials having more but worse, at this stage it's hard to believe that this is the case. It's incredibly easy for Wardens to mass produce our equipment at the same scale as that of the Colonials, leading to a visible contradiction as to how the faction doctrines are described. The sentiment of the devs having a bias towards one faction is also being fueled by the addition of two extra factories at the start of War 91, with the Colonials being expected to capture one of the two from the onset, but the issue with this type of decision, especially at the beginning of a new war, is that when this is made public knowledge, the faction who the advantage is given to is even more determined to ensure they hold on to it. In this case, the region the extra factory was in was heavily stacked with Wardens to ensure they held it. All in all, there is a lot of failings from the devs, and it was important to preface the video with this, as it is the root of a great many issues within the game. Whilst cheating is the bane of any developer's life, there is usually a defense mechanism built within a game that makes it harder to cheat and easier for the cheats to be detected. Unfortunately, the developers of Foxhole did not get this memo, and now cheating is a pretty common issue within the game, which is made worse due to the lack of anti-cheat software within it. Most Unreal games make use of easy anti-cheat, used by big titles such as Hell Let Loose amongst many others. Whilst it's not a very good anti-cheat, it's significantly better than not having anything. Reports of hacking and cheating have been going around since the game first came out back in 2017, but it doesn't seem like it. They don't seem like they really care about this as a priority issue, even though when you're on the receiving end of a cheater, you have a pretty awful experience. As a player of a game, when cheats like this happen, it can be pretty frustrating as an experience, made worse when you have your tank destroyed due to this.
It's just a rifle fire!
Hey, shoot it!
As you can see, there aren't exactly very many ways of being discreet about these hacking activities. Either way, it's a problem in the game, and we, unfortunately, have to rely on the developers to fix it. There are so many easily accessible hacking sites you can go to that do a wide range of things. For example, you have a full customization of the crosshair and all the indicators. This is the website that shows up at the top of my search when I search for Foxhole hacks. Now, the ability to customize crosshairs and the indicators isn't too bad of a thing. However, this website allows you to give yourself a wide range of extra visual features to give you the edge on the battlefield. This is inclusive of an arrow that guides you to where the enemy and friendly forces are positioned around you, extra keybinds to give you the edge in a wide variety of combat situations, the ability to increase the field of view of the player camera, and even remove the fog of war effect of hiding players that are out of your line of sight. And we can't forget about aimbot, the scourge of any gamer who enjoys playing games, automatically locking onto a player and giving your weapon maximum stability, even whilst running. And this website boasts a huge array more than what I've just spoken about. I don't condone cheating, and nor do I condone hacking. I just can't believe it's this ridiculously easy to do it in a game this big of this kind. But that's about it for today's video, and that about wraps it up. Stay tuned for part 2 coming soon. There's going to be a load more information and issues that I personally, as well as the people and my friends who are in my clan, have found with the game so far. So thank you all so much for watching, and I shall see you all in the next video.